Welcome in, folks. What do you say? Another Betting Above the Rim pro basketball today, right here on SportsGrid. Coach James Young, Tom Vecchio, Kevin Walsh with you on this Saturday morning as we get set for game number 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals, where the Indiana Pacers at home will look to close out the New York Knicks. JY, we did see the Knicks, though, show some fight and give us a game to talk about here this morning.
I don't know, Kevin. I'm already
stressed out.
Yeah, I'm stressed out. This guy Foster's coming in, hot takes before. I'm all confused. But what you could say about a couple of nights ago was the Knicks played their best game, honestly, because they couldn't get embarrassed at home. That's what it is. I don't even think there was pressure on the Knicks. There was basically no pressure on Indiana. So the Knicks played their best game of this Eastern Conference Finals. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to what happens today. There's going to be adjustments made by Rick Carlisle. And there were some things that Tibbs did that I want to give credit to. Number one, I thought that Tibbs should have put OG on Halliburton. He did not. But he picked up Halliburton in the backcourt, which it took away the steam of him coming down court downhill off a high ball screen by putting your defense at automatic stress and bleeding about 3 more seconds off the shot clock, which to the average casual basketball fan, 3 seconds on the shot clock really does not mean not a lot to you. To me as a coach, that's eternity if you can make a team get into offense at 14 seconds than at 17 seconds, less action to defend. Number two is they did something I thought that they should have done earlier in the series is they took, at times, Brunson off the ball and they brought him on the run. Made him come off where someone like Aaron Naismith, who uses his strength, can't body up and get him going. You get him on the run, you get him on his heels, and we obviously know Naismith's ankle is compromised. That being said, Rick Carlisle, and I'm a Knicks fan, is a better coach than Tom Thibodeau. And I think Carlisle knew that they were not going to come back, and he's got something in his pocket that he's going to pull out tonight. It could be doubling Brunson on any ball screen to get out of his hands. It could be attacking Cat a different way. It could be setting screens in the backcourt. It could be a lot of different things, Tom. But you know that Rick Carlisle is too good of a coach that he's not going to have something to combat what Tibbs did in Game 5.
Well, first off, the pre-show discussions that we've had may end up being better than what we have here.
Oh, I think we'll do a great job.
We'll do a great job, but very heated Knicks-Celtics debate, which won't carry over into this show.
Yeah, because the Celtics are home. That's why.
Believe you.
You both have carried it over into the show while announcing you won't carry it over.
It's just a 10-second teaser, regardless of that. The game, what we saw from the Knicks was obviously, yes, their best game of the season, you could say, in some capacity. I want to get into what we saw from the Pacers, or lack thereof, because it was a terrible game for them. It was a terrible game for them as a team level, at a personal level. You could say that maybe they didn't come into it with the same intensity that they did when they were at home, but tonight the pressure is all on Indiana. The pressure is all on Indiana to not blow a 3-1 lead and have to go on the road to play a Game 7. Now, they have been very good on the road. They have won at MSG. We could factor all these things in, but still blowing a 3-1 lead and needing to go on the road, I think is just objectively a bad thing, regardless of what ends up happening. That's still very bad. The defensive adjustments were good from the Knicks. Obviously, we talked about it when we were here last week. Will there be a change in the starting lineup of putting Hart to the bench and bringing Mitchell Robinson into the starting lineup? And that's what we did end up seeing. And we have seen that for a few games. That will obviously continue. Coming into the game the other day, we did see Karl-Anthony Towns listed as questionable. He obviously had that knee-leg issue at the end of the prior game, but he looked strong. He looked really strong right from the jump in that game. He had a double-double at halftime, if I remember correctly, in Game 5. So I'm expecting the same type of effort from the Knicks. The results on the offensive end for the Pacers, I think, is obviously, not to put it simply, but that's obviously the determining factor for tonight's game. Will the Pacers come out of what we saw in Game 4, or will it be Game 5? I think it's going to fall somewhere in the middle of that. Halliburton can't have a dud game like he did. And I know you're very high on Halliburton, but
I certainly am.
It wasn't an acceptable performance.
It was. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he played well or anything of the nature. I think it is a performance that he is more vulnerable to than other stars due to how he impacts the basketball game. But I think we probably should have the Tyrese Halliburton conversation, and we will hear this morning about where he's viewed in this league, where he's viewed in this series. We've seen some say he is better than Brunson. I saw some the other day suggest, are we sure he's better than Karl Anthony Towns? So we can attack that. I will just say, for the Knicks, the Game 5 effort was mandatory. If it did not show up, every single person then involved with this basketball team needed to be checked and needed to be questioned, because that performance is not new. Where have we seen that before? When the Knicks went to Boston, no Tatum, and trailed in that game by as many as 28 and lost by 25? What about in round number 1? When the Warriors controlled what felt like the entire series against the Rockets, up 3-1, went to Houston, and trailed by as many as 31 points in that basketball game and played no starters in the fourth quarter because of how much that game was over? Again, Houston was able to force a game number 7, right? Boston was nearly booked as favorites to win the series after forcing the Game 6 to the Knicks. It's not to say that the performance by the Knicks is irrelevant, but I also just think people should be careful going, corner turned, they figured it out. No, all the Knicks figured out was actually showing up start to finish finally in this postseason outside of the Game 6 that they had against Boston. Again, despite playing a ton of playoff games so far, the Knicks only have, I would say, JY, 2 complete playoff games so far that we've seen.
Yeah, and it was both times when, let's be honest, their backs were against the wall.
Yeah.
I mean, if they don't win Game 6, you're going to Boston Game 7, and then here comes a choke job on New York's side. And obviously, here's the thing. Kevin made a good point. If the Knicks would have lost Game 5, people's jobs would have been lost. I'm being serious. I think Tips loses his job if they lose Game 5 at home, in my opinion, especially if they lose without a complete effort. So all they did in that game is affirm the fact of, well, the coach and most of you are going to be back. So listen, Indiana is not going to play this poorly. The Knicks are not going to have 22 for 38 combined for Cat and Brunson. The question is can New York come down a little bit, Indiana come up a little bit, and it can be enough for the Knicks to force a Game 7? Yes, if you have certain things happen. Number 1, you can't turn the ball over a ton. You can't have what Josh Hart did in game number 4, which Knicks fans are still screaming to Tibbs about because we think this guy may have sold the game. Number 2, Karl Anthony Towns cannot continue to commit 2 to 3 of the dumbest fouls known to man every game. The guy's gone over his points prop 3 straight games, and he's been in foul trouble in the first quarter in every single one of them. 3, well, Tibbs, do what Tibbs usually does, is say, I'm going to look at my 5 starters, Hart, Robinson, and say, that's it. Or is he going to look at you and say, oh my God, Larry Shamet, can't believe I'm saying this, is better defensively than any guard we have on the Knicks at times. DeLon Wright is better defensively than Jalen Brunson. Deuce McBride may be our best defensive guard. Give Cat time with those guys where he could cook, and then those guys can lock you in defensively. Tibbs has to go back to the well, but I still think it's going to be a monumental climb for the Knicks to go into Indiana and win tonight.
I think it will, and we were talking about the Nesmith injury. He's definitely not 100%. So what adjustments do we see from a Ben Mathurin coming off the bench? Is he going to still provide that scoring boost? I think that's going to be huge. The scoring punch off the bench is what the Pacers will need to have.
10.5. I'm telling you right now, it's my best play. I think Mathurin over 10.5 points. Sorry, I'm giving it away. Spoiler. Woo!
What a morning it's going to be right here on SportsGrid.
Tatum's overrated too.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups. My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series with a rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too short of a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of thoughts.
18.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live right here on SportsGrid, getting into Knicks Pacers. There's so many different avenues that we can walk with this one. There's still plenty of things that we'll get into outside of this series today, locking into Oklahoma City advancing to the finals, Minnesota, and what their offseason could potentially look like. We'll also head over to the WNBA. Packed slate yesterday, a one-game board here on this Saturday, and let's actually attack this then from the Pacer angle, because the 94 points that they scored was their fewest this postseason, first time actually under 100 points. And the consecutive Tyrese Halliburton games brought out a lot of conversations. Game number 4, 32, 12, and 15, 4 steals. You could argue the best game anyone's played this whole postseason. I think it comfortably ranks inside that top 5. But the follow-up performance is something we've seen from Halliburton before. Single-digit scoring, 6 assists. His team got rocked. That's what happened ultimately for the Pacers on the road. Is Tyrese Halliburton a top 10 player? Maybe the other question is, does it matter if Tyrese Halliburton is a top 10 player? But tell me, Tom, how do you view Halliburton right now as his team has gone out there and played 15 games so far this postseason?
Well, the range of outcomes that we've seen from him is largely what we saw at the beginning portion of the season, where he was vastly inconsistent, especially when it comes to scoring. And this is coming off of a summer where he played in the Olympics. I'm not saying he played a whole ton, but still a busy summer of basketball, a inconsistent level that I certainly didn't like from a betting angle at the beginning portion of the season, but overall, outside of that one game versus the Cavs in Game 3, he has been pretty awesome this postseason. I think it's the level. It's kind of, we mentioned with Tatum, not to bring that back up, but there's like some dud games that you could look back at his game log and you're like, okay, that's a little bit weird. We shouldn't be expecting that from a player that's, arguably top 15, top 20, whatever it might be in the league. So, he's under 10 points. A complete bad game by really all standards. I'm expecting not the 32-point triple-double that he had the other night, and obviously not an 8-point outing. As you said, if the Pacers a little bit, obviously Halliburton will be the one kind of leading that charge. I expect him to be at that 19 to 20 point mark, 12 assists, adding a few rebounds, and it really comes down to what the rest of the offense does around him. Are we going to see, because it wasn't just Halliburton, but we often talk about the way he affects the offense overall leads into Siakam having a good game, leads into Turner having a good game. So I'm fine with one bad performance, but this is like time to put up or shut up if you want to be considered one of the best in the league.
Well, I think people want to sit here and listen, it wasn't a good game. We don't have to get into that. But the guy averaged 18.6, 9.2 in the regular season, and is giving you 18.7 and 9.5 in the postseason. So if you really look at his numbers, he's right where he needs to be. It just wasn't a good game. I think the key thing to look at this series is in the 5 games. It's in the fact of is in shot creativity for others. Okay, 2 games that they've lost, 6 and 7 assists. 3 games they've won, 11 assists or more. It's right there. It's his ability to create for others. And it goes 2 ways, right? It is, can Indiana get into transition? Meaning, can they turn the Knicks over and get this game up and down? Because that's where Tyrese excels, in the ability to get the ball up, find people into their spots, but also get the guys open for an open 3 in transition, which, let's be honest, guys, Indiana is deadly on our transition 3s. So if they can get into transition and run, it makes Halliburton better. So Halliburton, yes, has to play better, but he's also a product of what's around him, right? So if Indiana can't force transition, right? If they can't secure offensive rebounds, you're taking away what Halliburton does well. So yes, can Tyrese be better? Absolutely, and I'm not expecting 7 shots. But the guys around him have to be better as well, which then gives him the ball in space, Kevin, to allow him to do what he does best.
I think, again, for me, as someone who does believe he's firmly one of the 10 best players in the league, first of all, I think people are being far too dismissive over the fact that the Pacers have been in the conference finals for consecutive seasons. That's just the reality of it. That is true of the Indiana Pacers. That is true of the Minnesota Timberwolves. And while Anthony Edwards went out with a whimper, nobody is going to sit here and argue that Anthony Edwards has fallen outside of the top 10 players in the league, at least certainly not that I would anticipate here. And you could tell me that Ant is much better than Halliburton. I agree. Anthony Edwards is better than Halliburton. I would rank Anthony Edwards ahead of Tyrese Halliburton. But Tyrese Halliburton is a one-of-one star currently in this league. Again, the comparisons have to be Steve Nash, Chris Paul, Jason Kidd as well if you'd like. But Nash and CP3 specifically are guys that very consistently were seen as top 10 players in the league. In fact, Nash won multiple MVPs, and Chris Paul was in a couple of MVP races. Heck, he was in one actually while he was in Phoenix, which isn't all that long ago. I'm not telling you Halliburton is those guys all time. I'm also not going to tell you that Tyrese Halliburton doesn't have a chance to be, though. Tyrese Halliburton has the benefit of playing in 2025, where a pass-first point guard is still aware they need to shoot it a little bit more, use the three-point line to their advantage. And when Tyrese has it going from 3, it's almost impossible to beat this Indiana Pacers team. When one of the, even if I expand it further out, 15 best players in the league is averaging under 20 a game, his bad games, of course, then are going to feel a lot different than when a Jalen Brunson, who's inside, everyone's top 15, has a bad game. But again, this is a guy that averages 30 a game. So a bad Brunson game is 21. But they're not the same player at all. And Halliburton's play style is one that we don't have really anyone else doing in the league today. But JY, we've seen before, and we've seen it be incredibly impactful.
Yeah, and when you were talking about guys, I think about, a guy I know a little bit in Steve Nash, and I think that is the comparison. The ability to create and play in a fast-paced offense. So when you look at a person that you want to say, get Tyrese here, to me it's Nash. I think he's a little bit different than he is CP3, but I think Nash is the perfect comparison, in my opinion, to someone like Halliburton.
If you are the New York Knicks, though, you have to wonder, did we find something out in Game 5, or was it just effort-based? We'll talk about that next right here on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups. My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
Rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of thoughts.
15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We're back with you right here on SportsGrid talking Eastern Conference Finals, and I don't mean to be dismissive over what the Knicks did in game number 5. It's just we've seen it plenty of times. Down 3-1, going back to your building, show some fight. And this is a team from the Knicks that you would expect to show fight. Brunson, Hart, Tom Thibodeau, those are guys that you don't expect to just lay down and roll over. Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, those guys all stepped up, as did Karl Anthony Towns, by the way. Gat's actually, having himself a pretty good series. I know the foul trouble's frustrating. I know the defense is frustrating. But if you look so far this postseason, it's easily been his most productive series of the playoffs here. So, JY, I'll ask you, do you feel like maybe the Knicks, as the series has gone on, have found some answers as trying to slow down this Indiana team?
I mean, I think they've made some adjustments. I don't know if we'll know what the answer is because there's going to be an adjustment made by, Rick Carlisle. I think the first thing is with New York is you've seen them pick up Jalen Brunson in the backcourt. Now what you've seen is Tibbs picking up Tyrese Halliburton in the backcourt just to kind of slow down the momentum of the offense to start 2 to 3 seconds later, which 2 or 3 seconds later is an eternity, like I said before. It's defending one less action. And Indiana is not a team about their first action, Kevin. They're about their second, third action. Like, get your defense at stress, and then here comes the next action to open up the floor even more. That's number one. Number two is the ability to play his bench and literally stagger Brunson and Cat's minutes when he can. Cat always seems to go, I haven't even looked yet. The prop should be you're looking at right now is Cat over second quarter points. Because that seems to be what happens. Brunson starts early. Cat gets an early break. Brunson goes to the bench. Literally 1 minute left to go in the first quarter. Cat checks back in. Brunson sits the first 4 minutes of the second quarter, and then that should be the play. So the points prop, and I haven't even looked at it. This is just me watching the game. It's going to be Cat second quarter. Look at that, because I think his first quarter prop is only 4.5. So that's what the Knicks have done. The question is, Tom, I know that Rick Carlisle will adjust, but 2, when push comes to shove, is Tom Thibodeau going to trust Larry Shamet, DeLon Wright, Deuce McBride with some minutes, particularly in that second quarter, or is he going to say, I'm playing my 5 and Hart and Deuce, and I'm playing 7 guys, and that's it, and that's going to hurt the flow, particularly with someone like Karl Anthony Towns in the second quarter.
The thought process that I would have is if you bring some of those backup guards on, are you kind of like telling your hand, it's like, hey, this is Cat's time. So defensively, the Pacers will make adjustments to be like, hey, we just got to eliminate Cat, and then we can kind of stifle the Knicks offense because we're not worried about too much scoring getting out of, from a Deuce McBride or from a DeLon Wright. We're not worried about too much scoring happening. And then at a point, the Pacers could match that scoring, right? If they can subtract Cat or at least temper him in those non-Brunson minutes, it's like, listen, we just got to take care of Cat. Instead of him having 8 points or 12 points a quarter, if we can keep him to 4, we can kind of take care of things. We can kind of match the Pacers offense that is can kind of match what the rest of the Knicks are doing, and therefore we kind of come out square, and then boom, we get Halliburton back, and then we can go toe-to-toe when Brunson's back on the court.
And one thing, when you look at those guys, those bench guys that come off in that second unit, the one thing that they do, particularly Shamet and Deuce, is they're catch-and-shoot three-point shooters. So when you give the ball to Cat and he's driving downhill, you're sticking those two guys in the corner wing spots where they can catch and knock down shots. So it's a little bit of what they do defensively, but it's also the spacing that they allow themselves. And then it's either Bridges or OG as the fifth guy. Particularly those two guys are good corner three-point shooters. So it is a little bit about who you have around them in regards to what they're able to do. But yeah, if you're Rick Carlisle, you have to adjust here. But that has been the recipe for the Knicks because they do not, their offense looks stagnant when it's Brunson and Cat. There's not a lot of pick-and-pop action. It's a lot of Brunson. And why Brunson played well and the Knicks won is because Brunson got off to a hot start. There's been times where he's not gotten off to great starts and they've been playing with the hole. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of adjustments, Kevin, are made by Rick Carlisle tonight.
In the 2 wins for the Knicks in this series, the Pacers are averaging 97 points per game. The 2 lowest scoring efforts of the Pacers postseason have been the 2 games that they've dropped to the Knicks. Again, credit to the Knicks, but if the pathway for them winning in this series is holding the Pacers to 100, I think they're up against it because this is not a team that seemingly anyone can consistently hold to that type of range. The Pacers, when they are coming off of a game under 110 in these playoffs, have scored at least 129 in the follow-up game. We'll see what it looks like tonight. We'll talk about the Thunder next.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
Rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The Oklahoma City Thunder are in the NBA Finals. Kevin Walsh, Tom Vecchio, and Coach James Young. And the reality for OKC is, if I were to ask these two gentlemen, who would you rather play? We could debate it, but nobody, I don't think, is going to pick either of these Eastern Conference teams against the Thunder, because the Oklahoma City Thunder seemingly are getting better as this postseason goes on. The Thunder are minus 750 to win the NBA championship. There are some hypothetical prices out there if they were to play the Pacers at minus 770. If they were to play the Knicks, then maybe around minus 600 or 700 is what we would anticipate the number being. So I think then we just start with this run up to the finals, JY, and the conversations now, OKC, an all-time team, an all-time season. How do you feel about the Thunder 12 wins in as they hope to get to 16?
I think the best thing that happened to the Oklahoma City Thunder, honestly, Kevin, is a Denver Nuggets series. Because they were put at stress, right? They were put in situations where they lost home court in game number 1. They lost a tight game in game number 3, in which SGA kind of got a little crazy. They didn't get the ball to Jalen Williams, right? So they got pushed. And at some point, when you're that team, Kevin, that gets over the hump, you got to be pushed. And it usually is by a team that won a championship.
Yeah.
But we're used to that happening in the conference finals or the NBA finals and not in the semifinals. I also think, and I talked about this before when we started the playoffs, that I thought that the pathway for Minnesota was to the Western Conference Finals. But then I thought they were going to run into the Thunder and they were going to run into problems. And that's exactly what happened. And I think they're the first team, if I'm not mistaken, Kevin, to get to the NBA Finals with 80 wins. I think I saw some of that, or 80-something wins. And part of that's because, obviously, first round, 7 games. It used to be first round, 5 games, so that can take away a team or two, just that one extra win. But they can do everything that you can do and better. If you look at Indiana, what are they based off of? Speed, transition, offensive, diverse play. I think Oklahoma City's better than that. You think about the Knicks. The Knicks try to grind you down defensively. I think Oklahoma City's better than that. So they do what you do better than you, and then when you don't do better, they do better than you as well. And that is why, Tom, they have looked the way they've done, and that's why they are a huge favorite to take out the Pacers or the Knicks in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, we've been in studio doing the show for weeks and weeks at this point, and what did we say during the OKC-Denver series? They couldn't win close games. Right, we talked about the fact that OKC they either won in a blowout or they lost close games. They rectified that. And to your point, Coach, of what they do and they do better than everyone else, they also have more pieces to throw at everyone else. And we talked about this a little bit pre-show, who would the Thunder rather play. Frankly, I think they would rather play the Knicks because I just don't think the Knicks, A, have the offense to keep up with them or the depth. Like, that's what it really comes down to. So when push comes to shove, the Thunder defense we can equate to being – I should say the Knicks defense is good enough to hang with the Thunder defense. But at a certain point, the Knicks offense will not hang with the Thunder offense. So when push comes to shove, you can match them on defense. Okay, the defense will always be there. The offense may be inconsistent on a time-to-time basis and may struggle at times versus a hypothetical matchup against the Knicks. But the defense are equal. Therefore, we're going to see the offense from the Thunder push ahead at a certain point. That's just the way I look at it.
Are not equal. The Thunder's defense is
better.
Is in another planet.
Right, but I'm saying there are times that the Knicks defense could hang with the Thunder defense, but at a certain point, that Thunder offense is way better than the Knicks.
Oh, I agree. And listen, I think it's stylistically what team has given them the most stress?
Teams that can score. Pacers can score consistently. The Knicks can't score 120 consistently.
But I think the thing that when you play against a team, and I've thought about this I've gone against situations coaching where we've played against teams that are far more talented than us, far deeper than us. I have to shorten the game, meaning possession-wise, and I got to make it as much as I can of a street fight. Right. Even though knowing, Kevin, I'm going to lose the street fight most nights. The team that does that better is New York, if that is game 5. I'm not talking, because you can't think that they're going to play like they did game 1, game 2, down 20 against Boston and come back. Right. You have to play with the lead and muck the game up and make it extremely physical for you to take them out. So can I see Indiana doing it? I can see Indiana trying to outrun them. I just don't think that's going to matter to OKC because I think they'll do enough to neutralize the break and to take advantage. I think the Knicks pose a little bit of a harder test because of the fact that they may try to shorten the game and make it more physical.
So the Thunder had the best defense in the league all season long. They've had the best defense this entire postseason. It's why I think the Pacers are a fascinating matchup because their offensive rating is actually better than the Thunder's so far in this playoffs, and I think it's one of the most consistent offenses. It's one of the more high-floor offenses that the league has to offer, and a lot of that is why I believe in the player that Tyrese Halliburton is. If it does end up the New York Knicks, look, obviously you have to get stops, but the New York Knicks have also been a team that their two best players, the story on them has been they can't play any defense in Brunson and Cat. So I don't think the pathway for the Knicks is, well, we're going to lock down the Oklahoma City Thunder. You're going to need guys to have really consistent offensive efforts in Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. I think for Oklahoma City, round number 1 when you're a 1 seed is supposed to be easy, and for them it largely was, but the road games were closer probably than you remember. The matchup against Denver, they lost on the road 2 of the 3 games, and they had to complete fourth-quarter comebacks in that series, and that was certainly a big breakthrough for them. Against Minnesota, they lost by, if OKC does win the championship, they lost that game by more than any team that'll ever win a title loses a game. They then were able to squeak out the game 4 with an incredible effort from their big 3, holding off an unreal effort from the role players of Minnesota, but Minnesota's superstars just did not show up to the basketball game. The Thunder are maybe the greatest blowout team in the history of basketball. Nobody rocks them like the Oklahoma City Thunder. When they got it, they've got it, and you might as well tap out as early as possible. I mean, you go into these Game 7s and you think to yourself, or the series on the line, I should say, well, I'm going to get a full prop load tonight from Jokic, Anthony Edwards. Why are they on the bench in the fourth? The game's over. The game is just flatly over, and it'd be an embarrassment to keep your guys out there. If you are, again, the Pacers or Knicks, though, is there anything from that Denver series that you can potentially hang your hat on? And the one specific element to me is the way Jalen Williams struggled in that series. And can Aaron Nesmith and Pascal Siakam potentially throw enough at Jalen Williams if it's Indiana? Can OG Anunoby, specifically with Mikal Bridges' help as well, throw enough at Jalen Williams where now you can start to throw the Thunder off of their rhythm? But those are all questions that only one of the teams will have an opportunity to answer, and it's a question that Minnesota could not answer whatsoever because Jalen Williams ended up ultimately outplaying Anthony Edwards in the conference finals. Chet Holmgren probably did as well when it's all said and done, and that then leads us to a conversation for Minnesota. What is next for this team? How should they feel coming off of 2 straight trips to the conference finals, but a pair of 4-1 efforts that did not go their direction? We'll talk about it next. We're live with you right here on SportsGrid.
Did you know sports books tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups. My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 18.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back at the right here on SportsGrid, and the Minnesota Timberwolves last year, when they made the conference finals as the 3 seed, it was an incredible run, and really no negatives came out of it conversation-wise. Maybe some questions around Karl Anthony Towns, maybe the reason he ended up with the New York Knicks, but it was good vibes. Despite being favored in the series and losing it in 5, all in all, they weren't really supposed to be there. They eliminated the defending champs at the time in route with the Denver Nuggets. Positivity. This year, a 6 seed who climbed up thanks to an incredible second half run, because the initial parts of the season were nightmarish and it felt like they had handedly lost the Randall Cat trade. All of a sudden, eliminates the Lakers in 5, roll Golden State with home court advantage in the series, which, with the Steph injury, didn't garner a ton of credit, really, nor should it have, but left us heading into the conference finals with Minnesota going, they made it back. They have no chance. Yet, despite year number 1 losing as the favorite and year 2 losing as a monstrous underdog, it is the year 2 performance that feels significantly more disappointing and leaves a lot more questions around the Minnesota Timberwolves and what's next. So, JY, what's next?
I think it's interesting because when you look at them, you have to find where you're going to have, with a team with Anthony Edwards, more scoring punch. They made a decision to trade Cat over Rudy. One, because did they value Rudy's rim protection over Cat's shooting, or the fact that they were going to get more for Cat than they would for Rudy? I don't know. Probably some combination of both. So when you look at Minnesota, you pull up the stats, and you get in the playoffs from Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley a combined 13.9 points per game. That is not going to cut it. There are times, offensively, where the Minnesota Timberwolves are playing 3-on-5, and it could be 2-on-5 if McDaniels isn't rolling. So there is the issue of so where do you go to improve? At $35 million a year next 3 years, I don't, and you just gave him the money. I don't see how you move him unless we send him to L.A. for Kevin Walsh's Los Angeles Lakers, which I'm sure he'll make very, very happy. Yes, I brought up the Lakers in this show before K-Dub did. So then it's Conley. And then I start looking at the roster and I say, when Kevin and I did the draft with Ben last year, they took 2 guards that Kevin and I were really high on coming out of college. And that's Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon Jr. For different reasons. K-Dub probably more of the Dillingham guy. I'm probably more the Terrence Shannon Jr. guy. But when Alexander Walker being a free agent, you have to get one of these guys to take a big step. Now, Shannon Jr. had the one opportunity in game 3, I think it is, had 15 points, was really great, can score the ball, can defend, but he's not a point, right? So maybe he's your backup. The guy's Dillingham. You got to see if you can develop him because you have to admit, coming out of Kentucky, offensively gifted through the roof. Can he play the point and get you in the offense? I think he can be taught that. So to me, you got to get scoring punts in the backcourt, which at the point guard, which means either you got to go get someone, Tom, or you got to take someone like Dillingham, develop him to be a starter to play with Ant, which I think he can be, and then hope that Shannon Jr. becomes your guy off the bench.
So we were here last week, and I said to you, and I said on the show that Rudy and Conley are just non-threats on offense.
Yeah.
They're just legitimately non-threats on offense.
Way more threats on offense.
Scoring 6-7 points a game.
I can't get more points than Rudy.
It's just a non-threat on offense.
I think more.
The question becomes: will Dillingham step up? Can they be that offensive option? I think the answer is yes, but it's not going to be as if they flip a switch. There's going to be some significant growing pains throughout the beginning portion of the season. And, does that put them behind the 8 ball? So they want to develop him, and it certainly could happen, but it's not going to be a quick fix. The question becomes as we're looking at some upcoming free agents, where would they go? Who is the answer out there? Ideally, they move off of the Rudy Gobert contract because it's atrocious. The question becomes, as you were alluding to the beginning, do they trade a Cat or, Rudy? I don't think anyone wants to take Rudy. That's the contract is so bad that he only fits with certain teams to play a very, very specific role. So they want to get rid of him, but the other side of that is there's not many attractive guard options to bring in. There aren't many good upcoming guards that can fill that role. So it's do they give a bad contract to an average player, or do they go through the growing pains of having young players to play alongside Ant?
I can't believe I'm about to say this.
Oh, man.
Don't kill me. Do you take a chance for a year and hope that he can hold the fort steady until he's ready and go get Chris Paul for a year? Because he's not going back to San Antonio.
No, okay.
I know.
You're both going crazy. Okay. Mike Conley is still under contract. If they're going to have an old guard, they're just going to let Mike Conley.
Oh, God, but
Mike Conley's going to just play guard. Mike Conley's going to start probably unless they make some type of trade. The reality is the free agent class isn't great, and maybe half of the great players would be Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Naz Reid, which is tough enough for Minnesota. Randall probably will want to stay. I think they will want him back, but with a player option for $30 million, there's going to be something that needs to be figured out there. He played well enough in this postseason to not be playing on a one-year, $30 million deal. He did not play well enough that he can just kind of tell Minnesota to kick rocks, but something will need to be figured out between those two sides to keep Randall ultimately in Minnesota. Gobert is fascinating. He actually makes a little bit less money than you would probably think the next 2 years of his deal. The issue is Chris Finch completely buried him throughout this postseason. We'll be right back with you here on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
Rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live to the right here on SportsGrid as we get ready to talk some WNBA at the top of the hour. We just take a quick look at where some of the odds are for the NBA and the finals pricing, and if things feel a little heavy, a little light, can anybody actually beat Oklahoma City? And the thing for me with the Thunder is basically since they made their offseason moves for Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein, I understood the numbers. I couldn't get to the numbers. They were, relatively speaking, very short entering into the season. And while OKC, heading into the year, were clear favorites for the number 1 seed, Shea felt like it was his time to win MVP. A team that didn't have the battle scars, it was going to be difficult to bet to win the title at that price. And their excellent regular season saw that number shift to 2-1 to under 2-1. And at that point, it feels like the moment's gone. And then you get into the conference pricing and you're dealing with minus numbers throughout. And then you got to start banking on Tommy Edman walk-offs to give your parlays life because you got Dodgers money line connected to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And shout out to the LA Dodgers. Now, most unbiased man, history, sports media. Now, the Thunder and the reality for this basketball team is I look at the minus 750 number, I go, it's ridiculous. It's outrageous. It's too much. But am I running to the window on Indiana? Am I running to the window on the New York Knicks? I don't find myself doing either of those things. And certainly, not right now. You'll let the dust settle on this series. So the question again becomes, what is the most difficult challenge that could possibly wait Oklahoma City? Do you think either of these teams, and I'll add Tom, could win multiple games against OKC in a finals matchup?
I want to say yes. Like one's on the board. Look, a team wins a game. They don't get swept in the NBA Finals. They're good enough to win a game.
Neither team would be swept. I feel confident.
Right.
About that.
So they win a game. Then the second game comes is like the line is 1.5. Will an opposing team win like a 1.5 games? That's what we're talking about. I think the answer is yes, and it would simply just come down to a high variance game where Halliburton hits 6 threes. Nesmith has another massive 3 shooting performance, and they just outscore them. They win a game 130-125, and it's just a variance type of thing where they're just running high. OKC happens to run a little bit cold. The game against Minnesota in Game 4, it's like Minnesota could have won that game with just some missed shots here and there, that type of game. So it really just comes down to that's the only way you can bet the series. You're not laying it on minus 700, minus 750, whatever it is. You're just taking an exact outcome. OKC to win the series 4-1, 4-2. There to be exactly 6 games, whatever it might be. Yeah. That's the only way to bet it. It doesn't matter who they play, the Knicks or the Pacers. That'd be the only way I'm betting the series because, again, you're not running to bet the Knicks or the Pacers. You just have to find some derivative of what you expect to happen, and that's OKC winning in 6.
Well, the interesting thing right now is because the Pacers are up 3-2, there are no, at least on FanDuel, bets of potential Thunder Knicks series. Everything is Thunder Pacers. Obviously, that will come into play should the Knicks win tonight. But then you're going to see some kind of movement in that regard, in regards to who wins the championship. Because if the Knicks were to win Game 6, they would go to the second slot over Indiana because they would host a Game 7. So if I were to bet on FanDuel right now when I look at the series, the one that would be intriguing to me, because I still think if the Knicks win tonight, I still think Indiana could win Game 7 in New York because they did it last year, even though with injuries. I'm worried about the break of the Thunder. And we saw this with Denver going 7 games, then going on the road and getting Game 1. So could you do a small Indiana Pacers win Game 1, Oklahoma City Thunder to win the series at a 5-1 number? Because maybe if it is Indiana, that pace may catch Oklahoma City off guard. They get a hot shooting game. They win Game 1. Oklahoma City adjusts, and it's 5-1. Not saying to play a lot, but that would be something I've been intrigued on, especially if it gets to Game 7. Pacers, moneyline Game 1, Thunder to win the series at 5-1.
I think it'll be really interesting to see, just kind of when you canvass the landscape that is sports media, how many non-Thunder picks are there? I'm talking aggregate every outlet you can possibly find. And I'm not saying that means they're going to lose. I don't remember the last time we maybe will enter a series where
everyone takes
every single thing seems very,
hasn't been
very
a favorite
obvious.
that big, though, either.
Yeah. Sure. All right, WNBA next.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series with a rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 18.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.